right. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We're here with Lily. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Lily Murray. I am an organic farmer in Vista, California. I didn't fall into this naturally. I was born into it. My parents are farmers, and I've been farming my entire life.
Awesome. So what are we drinking here, Frank?
This is our Minneola Sunshine Rain. So we took Minneolas, which are a beautiful tart citrus that is grown here, and we mixed it with our wildflower, sweet, organic honey-based mead. And we get a tart, floral, refreshing, relatively sweet for our brand, but probably only 2% residual sugar, bubbly, light, beautiful mead.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And how about you? What are you drinking?
I am drinking a lemonade that is made with honey from our friends at Sage Mountain Farms and lemons and strawberries from here.
Sounds
So
beautiful.
It's a little bit local and absolutely delicious. Yeah.
What are you tasting in your meal?
Oh man, tasting lots of beautiful things in our mead. A rich honey note that is complemented by this tart citrus Minneola. And correct me if I'm wrong, Lily, but Minneola is a cross between a grapefruit and a tangerine.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So it's got more of a bitter tartness note than your typical tangerine, but then it's got a lot of sweet juiciness, way more than your typical grapefruit.
Yeah, it's like the balance of both worlds of them.
Yeah. And the bitterness is almost like grapefruit bitterness. I can definitely taste that.
Which adds a really nice note to the overall drinking experience.
So if you ever buy our shop or see us at our farmer's market, get our Minneola mead. It's delicious.
Yes, no preservatives used, and bubbly, effervescent, beautiful.
So let's start with like the history of Edge of Urban Farms and how did farming begin here with your parents?
We have always, no matter where we lived, even when we didn't have farmland, we've had little patio gardens in pots. And then my parents found this place actually on Craigslist 13 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it fell into place in that, like, well, there's space to grow food again. And we had kind of had a section where we couldn't grow food for a couple of years, where we just had, like, tomatoes just for us, which is very weird because we always have so many that they get to everyone who doesn't even want them. And we have been here in this house for 13 years and farming on the property for about 12 years. There's a little bit of time here and there where we weren't growing things intentionally. We had things that are just here doing their own process. But Edge of Urban Farm is our farm name, and it is our own little piece of heaven on the edge of the city.
So did you guys start, what kind of stuff did you start growing 12 years ago? And then how has it evolved into helicopters flying over?
Yeah, we're outside. That's how it goes.
It's kind of, yeah.
Well, I mean, so what did you guys start off planting and how did you evolve to what you guys are growing today?
So we started off with row crops. We've always done row crops my entire life. We've had lettuces and tomatoes and bell peppers and eggplant and basil. And back in the day, my parents focused mostly on culinary herbs. So they would ship those to Chicago. There was a very specific market in Chicago that wanted fancy California produce. And we've always kind of just gone with the fancy California produce route where we grow things that are a little bit different but exciting. There's always something random growing here that we've found that's like, hey, let's check it out, see if it works. There's a tomato that I grew last year that is supposed to be the size of a dinner plate, and it's called the Kellogg's Breakfast. It was back in the day when I first grew it. Incredible, had an amazing flavor, produced really, really prolific, and then this last year when I grew it, it didn't. And that's just how things go sometimes with rotating crops and keeping up with, like, thinking you're maintaining the soil and adding enough good things back to it and trying to keep as little till as possible. We still have things that change, but in 2020, we decided to shift from row crops, and we have gone mainly into trees and different deciduous. So we have a bunch of stone fruit, we have apples, we have avocados, and we have about 80 more avocado trees to plant at the end of the year.
Oh wow,
Nice.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Super exciting.
And what's like your guys' farming philosophy?
Well, organic. It's it's one of those things that since I was a child, it's just been how it is. It's my dad's livelihood. He's also an organic consultant, so he helps people who have been growing go from conventional into organic, or maintain and become more productive as an organic farm. So there's that side, and my mom is also an organic inspector, so she is
Oh,
an
wow.
independent contractor for CCOF, and I'm hopefully going into that side of the business as well, and I'll be doing inspections as well eventually when I have time to do the training, which hasn't been possible the last 2 years.
That's crazy.
But we really are organic to the core. That's what we are, and we're not certified right now because when you certify, you have to have a certain amount of production to make it feasible for you. There's like a $600 window where you want to. I think it's after $600 you really think about, okay, do I need to do this? Am I going to have enough fruit to sell, to market, for it to be profitable for us to be certified this year? And we're not to that point again. We have been here in the past, and we've just maintained those practices along the way. So we do grow constitutionally organic. It's how it is for us. But we're not certified at this point because we just haven't had enough production in the last 2 years. When in the next like year and a half to 2 years, it's going to be to the point where we'll be certified again.
That's awesome. And where does like regenerative fit into the picture for you guys, and how do you guys define that?
I think the biggest thing about being regenerative here is just being very conscious about what we're doing and making sure that we are maintaining the soil health and not, like I said earlier, tilling is just like been very, very minimal for us, and it's only really when necessary. Like most of the beds I've hand turned, and we're maintaining all of those natural bugs and things, minus what the chickens get to eat. We're maintaining all the goodies that we can and trying to be as conscious with everything we do as possible, and keeping small loop in everything that we do. Like we're trying to get mulch from even more local places, so we're not adding to the world. Just being smart about everything we do, I think, is how we're trying to maintain our staying regenerative. And
How do you like to define regenerative? Like when you think of all of the activities that a farmer could take on, what in your mind helps you understand this is regenerative practice? And there might be a sliding scale within that, but like these things are what characterize regenerative to you and your family.
I think for us, the biggest thing was, and for me, the biggest thing is, I am still learning as I go because it's an everyday thing, but it's about maintaining and becoming more conscious of what we are bringing onto the property and taking off the property. So if I'm like thinking about, yes, that tree has to go, but does it have to go right now for us? We want to get rid of this crop, but can we put it somewhere else so it mulches something else? So it's kind of just a smaller. There is actually a bee flying around the mead right now. I don't.
For the listeners,
That just so you listeners know, there's a bee flying around the table.
Happens all.
They know.
Yeah,
They know.
They know there's something.
They know. So just being really, really conscious with staying on the like small loop of like keeping things on the property and moving things and shifting the way that we can keep everything healthy in our own little ecosystem is how I define regenerative.
So a small loop, and then paying attention to what that loop is in terms of inputs, outputs. Waste streams become inputs for other value creating activities, and you're not just importing whatever you need and then exporting whatever you don't want and creating just like waste.
There's so little that's exported off this property willingly. Let me just tell you, the things that leave the property. Like there's a little peach on the table right now, and all of me wants to give it to Frank.
No.
And
That's just beautiful.
92% of me is like, but do you really want to give it away? That's the thing. You've worked so hard to get to this point. It's just, I think we're just being really smart about how we maintain this place. And by maintain, I mean just like every day. Like we're getting our compost from San Pasqual Valley soils, and that's just on the other side of Escondido. That's where we're trying to get the most of what we can. Yes, there are things that we use, like we just got our own little worm casting system that we're setting up. So we technically have livestock. I don't know if you knew that, but they're considered livestock.
Yeah. Well.
So we have a little livestock box. And those are the things that are trying to keep us regenerative. We're trying to like maintain as much as we can on the property without bringing too much from exterior sources.
Beautiful.
So, what's a worm casting box?
That's the one thing I didn't show you.
Ah.
That's funny. So there's a box that we actually ordered online, and we've had worms over the years that kind of doing their thing, and they require a very specific type of living circumstance that we haven't been able to maintain for them yet.
Okay.
But I ordered a box that you have 6 different layers, and you give them coconut core and paper that is shredded. They really love shredded paper for some reason. It's a great bedding for them, and eggshells, and then you feed them and switch sides. As I'm understanding, yes, I am not an expert on this. Please no, I am not an expert on this. YouTube it, because that's where I'm learning from. But I've been feeding them, and as they start to eat, their secretion becomes fertilizer.
Wow, that's super interesting.
Darwin, after his world-changing research, focused on worms for the last decade or 2 decades of his life, and he was like, everything I have done pales in comparison to what the worms are capable of. They're incredible.
Huh, that's super interesting.
Worms are pretty incredible. Just like the crazy little thing that they are. They can do so much good for the soil. And if you don't have the right type of worms, they can do a lot of bad for the soil as well.
Yeah, I've always associated worms with like bad.
So earthworms.
Earthworms,
Gotcha.
red wigglers.
Okay.
Those are the ones you want. And you can actually buy them at the Vista Farmers Market. There are a couple tables down from you guys.
That's awesome. Can you pour me some more Maine, Brandon?
Yeah, of course.
Nice. So how do pollinators play into your work here? Like, are you thinking much about pollinators? And
yes, we actually have a whole little garden that's devoted to them on the pathway down to the farm on both sides. There are a bunch of different plants that are specifically for the pollinators, and we have a lot of flowers now that I'm trying to add because it's my passion. I love flowers. I am not specifically named after one, but the nickname falls, goes well. But we have milk thistle for the butterflies, and they actually haven't found it yet this year, which I find interesting. I'm waiting for the day that I see the leaves annihilated because it happens that quickly. We have a bunch of different things for the bees, and I was telling Frank earlier that we had some bees on our property that have now been rehomed because they were moving into the neighbor's roof, and it was kind of frowned upon. They didn't really enjoy that was happening, so they had to go. But we have a lot of different things. The coolest thing to see, in my opinion, is the citrus blossoms when the bees take over, because it's intoxicating to smell it, and hearing them is the coolest hum. It is super cool, and it's also very fun when you have friends come over who are nervous around bees because they just freak out. And it is so funny because they're doing exactly what the bee wants them to do. Like, come on, they're just living their life.
They just want honey.
Yeah, they just want to do their job and pollinate all the good things.
I feel like that is a fundamental Southern California agricultural experience that a lot of people haven't had, which is to smell the orange blossoms, hear the bees, and know that this symbiosis that exists between us and pollinators and managed landscapes, when it's good, is good for everybody.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And when it's done properly,
so beautiful.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And that little window of time when the citrus blossoms are open that's why I planted so much citrus out front, because I want the front of the house to smell like that. I want people to drive by, the few cars that are on our little street, to drive by and go, wow, it smells incredible.
Yeah, I don't know if you're comfortable talking about what street you farm on, but it's a fun coincidence with our world.
We're actually on High Mead Circle. So
perfect. When I saw that, I was
the
like,
fact
what?
that it is, Mom and I have joked about this over the years. My mom and I have said that, we really should collaborate with a mead maker, and just didn't make the connection until we were like, oh shit, we have so many Minneolas that have to be off the tree. And Mom contacted Frank and was like, hey, do you guys want to do this? Because please. But High Mead Circle is very fitting for this little place.
I don't know if you know this, but I think the first time I was here, we hadn't even had our first daughter, who's 9 years old now.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And I drove up here and I was like, High Mead Circle. I have a feeling this is going to be part of my life. Here we are,
And it's a full circle moment.
That's very true.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I love that. Yeah.
You came here 9 years ago?
Yeah, I met Scott through Farmer Veteran Coalition. So Lily's dad, Scott Murray, is kind of this legendary organic farm consultant, and Michael Gorman, who runs Farmer Veteran Coalition, was like, "Hey, we know people in San Diego. You know Scott Murray." I'm like, no, I don't. And then you should check him out. And then I meet a guy from Chipotle who's like, "Do you know Scott Murray?" And I was like, no, but that name's popping up.
Maybe
and
I
then,
should meet him.
And then some other person's like, "Do you know Scott Murray?" I'm like, okay, apparently I
Really
need to
have
meet this
to
guy.
meet
Yeah. And so I emailed your dad and was like, "Hey, seems like we have a lot of common interests. Is there a chance that we could meet?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll just be pulling weeds in the garden. You want to come down and start talking?" And so it was a beautiful day, and the generosity of spirit that he has was blatantly obvious.
That is so fun. I didn't know that's how you guys met. That's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have lots of connections in Southern California, and my dad is a legend in the field of organic farming.
Well, your mom is too.
Yes, Laura is incredible in the field as well, and I'm sure my dad would like to tell you that he has been in it for 46 years. He's been doing this since he was in college.
75. That's insane. Yeah.
He turned 70. No.
In 1975. It's 46 years ago.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It is crazy to wrap my head around. And he started his farming in Santa Cruz because all the hip kids do.
So what's his story? How did he get into the organic picture?
His mom always had things growing.
Okay.
And that's just how you grow food. Back
organically.
In the day.
Yeah.
Why would you add anything?
Buy fertilizer from the store.
And then he went to Santa Cruz and started studying with some of the legends in permaculture up there, and became inspired from then on, and has been organic ever since. And my mom fell in love with a farmer, and I don't think she really knew what she was getting herself into with this guy, because he is just hilarious and in his own farming world all the time. Today he has 3 different appointments with 3 different farms, and that's just how his life is. He's always running with different farms and helping people create their dreams, and he is a very big dreamer. That's really cool to see.
Yeah.
That's all. So you grew up with farming, it's just natural to you?
Yes, you could say I was born with a green thumb.
Okay.
We pulled up and she was just taking care of this beautiful row of new flowers. And it was so idyllic.
Yeah, that's my life.
Is it something you wanted to pursue, or is it something you've grown into?
I always said that I would never do it because it's what I was raised doing unpaid. I always joke with people and say that farmers have a lot of kids because they need free labor.
Yeah.
It's the only kind of labor you don't have to pay in California.
Right. And so, yes, that was a thing. And now, for all those years that I farmed and helped for free, I'm working for the family business now, which I didn't think was going to be a thing in my life. I really, my dream was to travel the world and get paid to do it. That was what I told people always, that travel the world and get paid to do it. And so I did. I was a nanny for 10 months for an action sports family. I traveled all throughout the United States via tour bus, which was very fun. I went on about 52 flights in 10 months.
Whoa.
That was very fun. That was an experience for sure, because I had a 1.5-year-old and a 6-month-old when I started.
Whoa.
Those are
So
young.
2 little girls that were, one was crawling in one direction, one was running in the other one. So my life became nannying and traveling the world, and that's really, I kind of fulfilled that niche at a very young
Vision.
age.
Yeah.
That vision was really interesting and exhausting in the best way possible, and I love those girls with every fiber of my being, and always will, because they taught me so much. I got to go to Australia with them. I got to go to Mexico. I survived a hurricane in Mexico.
Ooh.
Taught them some survival skills. That was a lot of fun. I will never forget that ever in my life, even if I try to.
What happened? Like, were
Do
you?
you remember Hurricane Patricia?
Yes, I do. You
So
were in the
I
middle
was
of that.
in Sayulita for that,
Oh,
and it was headed directly for Sayulita, and we had literally arrived the day before.
Yikes!
So that was quite the experience.
Have you ever been in a hurricane before that?
No, but
Okay. You just
I mean,
figured it out.
I'm a Girl Scout. I was raised with Boy Scouts. I have some survival skills, and so I like taped the windows and padded the windows up with all the soft furniture we had in the whole place. I made sure there was nothing outside that could have broken the windows or obstructed our exits, and we were there for a day and a half. We hunkered down and just turned into a really, really intense rainstorm, and thankfully
Jeez.
it moved and went to a banana plantation and just completely flattened it.
Whoa.
And there were no people injured in this
Wow.
hurricane. And I'm pretty sure that was just because of the level of consciousness we were all operating at. Was like, no, we
Yeah,
really
please
wanna
move
go
that
home.
thing. Just slide it over.
Yeah. I remember my old
Kilometers.
boss, her husband was on tour still. His company is Nitro Circus, and so he was on tour with Nitro Circus. They were in, I'm pretty sure it was Denver, and he was like, I'm bringing a helicopter in, we're flying you out. And I was like, no, you're not.
Okay, yeah,
It's not how
that's
it
more
works.
dangerous.
So I got to live some pretty crazy experiences in those 10 and a half months, and then I ended up working for a hat company after that, and that's, we ended up with so many hats in this house. It was ridiculous because I was the person who processed returns. So if it was returned with a nick in it, or this one had some pieces that were pulled out of it, can't put it back into stock. So it has to come home with Lily.
Nice,
She's
nice.
gonna have 17 new hats today that she
Perfect.
brings home, and that year it was like,
That's
you
for
get
you.
a hat, and you get a hat, and you get a hat, and it was really fun. Yeah, it was. I learned a lot. And I learned a lot about how I would not operate my own business because the owner was not a nice human.
Oh.
And the people I worked with were incredible, and she did not understand or value them. And that's just heartbreaking to me because you have to learn somehow, and
Yeah.
starting at the bottom with the goal of getting to management one day, how our system is, however archaic it is, you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And she just didn't like people who were self-starters. Didn't like it at all. So that ended right at the end of 2019, right before Thanksgiving. I was laid off.
Okay.
And then I thought the world was ending. My life was over. I've never been asked to leave a job before.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like a door opened for me. I went to Iceland in that October.
Oh, cool.
My life changed. It is the most incredible place I've ever been to, and I cannot wait to go back. Everywhere you look is like a freaking postcard. Literally everywhere. You'll be driving down the road. The side of the road, there's a perfect waterfall, and the locals are like, yeah, no, that's a small one.
Yeah,
Why are you impressed by that?
Iceland is insane. So that really helped bring me back from this depth of working for a company that just did not value people whatsoever. And then 2020 happens, and we're home, and there's all this land. Let's farm it.
And an opportunity to transition it from annual row crops to perennial tree crops.
Yeah.
It seems like.
And in the beginning of 2020, my dad had talked about victory gardens because we were kind of at the point where we didn't really know what was happening and
Would food be in the
how
grocery store?
food would be. So he was telling people that you should plant your victory garden. So we planted our own little victory garden where we had things that would maintain our house and our neighbors' houses, kind of. So we had some lettuces and things that would keep us going. Obviously, we still needed to supplement, but we were ramping back up, getting to the point of what are we going to do now? and how are we going to do this? And one of our good friends had it and has an amazing business in the Phoenix area where he sells trees every year from Dave Wilson Nursery. And we've always had this amazing, like, that's a cool idea. We'd love to do that. And it just happened that my dad was like, you know what? We're going to buy trees. We're going to see how it goes. And so we bought trees, and they came 6 months later. And
Thanks, COVID.
we had a little bit of things to do. Actually, it's not even thanks to COVID. It's you pre-order with them, and then you get them when the season, they're completely dormant. They're bare root, so you just get a stick and some roots that comes in a box.
Wow.
So we ordered the original trees from Peaceful Valley, and quite literally, it was a 5-foot box with sticks and roots in it.
Huh.
Gnarly. And now you saw it.
Yeah, it's
They're
beautiful.
trees with beautiful peaches on them,
Yeah.
and it's so cool to see.
And so did you go through an extensive design process, or are you kind of more get it started, learn as you go, design further?
I do not do any of the designing because my dad does the designing while he's winding down for the day. He designs our farm.
Yeah. You know, all the lessons learned from the day get incorporated into the design.
So this is the layout is really his brainchild, and everything is planted very, very high density. So everything is 6 feet apart. They're social distancing. They're 6 feet apart, and even the avocado trees are 6 feet apart. And back in the day, they would plant them 18 to 24 feet apart and let them get to be these gargantuan trees.
Yeah.
And we won't be doing that. We'll be skirting them really nicely and keeping them small, so that they can handle less water and maintain creating as much fruit as possible.
So explain the 6 feet apart to me, other than the COVID joke. Well, like, what's the importance between having them 6 feet apart versus 20 feet apart or whatever it is? Or what's the thought process behind it?
Maintaining as much, like creating as much as we possibly can in a small space. So they would plant avocado trees very far apart back in the day and just let them become these huge, huge things.
Like 3-story tall.
They're
trees.
massive,
Jeez.
but they don't really cut them wisely or maintain them.
It's like a forest. It's like an
it's
avocado forest.
Full-on forest, and you have
So
inches
much
and feet
water.
of leaf litter, and that's just how it is. Whereas
when water was, a fifth of what it is now?
Yeah, and they would water for 24 hours once a month.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Which is a crazy way to do it. People always tell you know how much water avocados take. Mm-hmm. It's like this old wives' tale that everyone knows, apparently, even if they're not into farming.
Like 200 gallons?
Everyone knows.
Isn't it like 200 gallons of water for an avocado?
It's like 200 to 380 gallons a tree. There's the window that people will tell you.
Okay.
It's not true.
No?
No.
Okay, what's the truth?
That's the old way of growing.
Right. Super inefficient. Like, we were just like...
It's not efficient whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, here, take a bunch of water and good luck. That's it. That's what you get.
Good luck. Godspeed.
Yeah, that's what you get. So it's really, really interesting to see how that's kind of been studied a little bit.
Okay.
But avocados are kind of like a commodity grown around here. Mm-hmm. They're not corn.
Yeah.
Or wheat, but
you're a price taker. Unless you're doing organic, certified organic, you're a price taker. And it's hard to make an avocado ranch work now.
Well, and then you look at the packing houses, and the packing houses are who really makes the money because they're marking it up and then taking that. So there's so much to it, but the real reason we are planting 6 feet apart is because we want to get as much as possible on this property, and it's working. It's working really well.
Nice. What are your metrics of success here?
Well, in the past, that's the hard thing.
Yeah.
So we don't really have too much to show for what's going on right now because it's been ramping up to get to this point.
And you guys used to do farm-to-table dinners here, and there's a demonstration site a lot of the time, right?
A lot of it is demonstration farming. My dad's thing that he would tell people is that we are a research farm.
Yeah.
Because we have so many different types of coffee that we're growing as well. It is there's like multiple little climates on our property because we have a slope, and at the bottom of the slope it's colder. That's where the orchard is, and so we have our little like pie piece. The tip of the pizza is the orchard, and then as you come up, getting up closer to the house, that's where the coffee is. So it's protected a little more. It just deals with wind. And so there's those things. But we really don't know because we transition so much, and coffee takes time to get to the fruit. The peaches and the whole orchard takes time to get to the fruit. So it'd be fun to circle back in like 2 years when I can actually answer that.
And you're gonna turn a huge bed, which you currently have in grain and
Cover crop.
crop, into avocados.
Yes.
Right in the middle.
Yes. So those avocado trees came to us in these little pots that were about 4 inches, and the tree was probably about 6 inches tall. And that was a year ago.
Cool. And now they're
about 2 feet tall. Wow. Some of them. There's some that are kind of like crooked, so we don't really know because I have to work on those and straighten them out, get them doing their thing. But those trees, we had about 130 saplings that came to us that were grafted by one of our clients' nurseries. And those trees have then been transplanted about 4 months ago. I transplanted them into those bags that you saw. Those are 3-gallon bags. So they'll get to be about 3 feet tall, depending on how happy they are in those bags. And our goal is to plant them in October, November.
Cool.
So some of the current focuses are coffee and avocado and your orchard mainly. Are there anything else you're like focusing on this year that you're hoping to see fruits on in the future?
Our fun little thing that we want to do is kind of a subscription box based shipment when we have things in season. So one of the things we would offer is passion fruit, because the passion fruit is just starting to come on. Avocados ship very, very well. And in a lot of places in the country, you can't get them that are good for less than $6 a piece, which is just sad to me because I think everyone should have accessible
The joy
avocados.
of avocado.
Yeah.
It's like so good for you. They took it off of the bad fat list and they're just like, yeah, just eat as much avocado as you can.
It's so good. And like my best friend, she lives in Georgia. Her finding avocados that aren't from Mexico is impossible.
Yeah.
So I've shipped her boxes from our friends' farms. Like, hey, you got 30 avocados. Distribute them between you and your mom and dad and your sister, and just enjoy and have fun. Because we'll see when I can do that again. But it's the goal one day is to have bougie boxes shipped to your door.
Bougie regenerative.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
And flowers, will that be part of the model?
Flowers, Mom and I are really, really trying to convince Dad.
Oh yeah.
Flowers are just awesome. There's so much that you can do with them, and because they're so good for pollinators as well as just being beautiful.
Yeah.
And
We
you
need
gotta
more
have the
beauty in the
beauty.
world. Yeah.
Besides the weeds, we have so many weeds that are natural flowers that they're okay. But I really would love to do a lot of flowers as well. So
what kind of flowers would you like to do?
I'm starting to buy some seeds.
Okay.
I have some snapdragons that I just planted this week as well. My favorite flower that is a bulb is called an anemone, and they're very, very beautiful, and apparently they grow well around here. And it's just kind of like finding... Hey, Siri.
Siri wanted to be a part of this interview.
Creeper! Man! Sorry about that. So, yeah, I would love to grow a lot of flowers. My hopes is to grow like anemones and some bulbs, and we do have dahlias that we have going, which are my mom's favorite thing, and she's just gotten into growing those and watching them. Like, she planted them last year, so she was waiting for them to come out of their dormancy and do well this year. So it's something that we don't know, so it's going to be a lot of learning, but I would love to have flowers.
Yeah,
I'd love to have flowers.
make the farm more beautiful.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Get your pollinators going.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about organic and regenerative farms and like all the work your mom and dad does, what does the future look like in farming if we are to do those practices more and see the fruits of that labor? How do you see that shaping the future of farming?
That's what we have to do. That's the thing. I think a lot of people don't really know how much conventional ag has ruined the soil of the earth, and how we don't have nutrients in our food, and people are wondering why they're not healthy because they're eating food that wasn't nutrient dense to begin with. So you're just eating empty food. It's just there.
Because the soil has
The
been
soil
degraded so much.
just
The
doesn't
plant
have-
now doesn't have the
Yeah.
nutrients from the soil.
Like-
So then the human
Conventional
have the
avocados
nutrients.
are injected, and they actually inject the tree with something that makes it grow and helps it get to fruiting faster, but it kills the tree in the process. So when you see those trees in the groves, it's just heartbreaking because you look at it and you see like all the fruit and everything, it's doing well, but the actual trunk is slowly dying.
Jeez.
It's just this very interesting not so balance that we have in the world of there's so much buying going on, but people don't know who they're buying from or what they really are getting.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's so smart to like shop small and local and talk to your farmer and ask what they're doing and communicate and see like, okay, is this really something I want to be putting in our body and being more intentional?
And are they down to let you come visit? Like Joel
Yeah.
Salatin talks about that, right? Like the ultimate organic test is, will they let you go to their farm and look at what they're doing?
Yeah,
And if the answer is no, like, well, what are they hiding?
yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then you can trust them because they're like not hiding anything. It's just,
'Cause you
we're
should.
growing food. It's
You're working
nothing
outside.
complicated.
You're working with Gaia. You really shouldn't. You should not be hiding anything. You should be really conscious about everything you do because we don't know how lucky we are until you lose it. Wild mustard,
Yeah.
and it's the bees'
Love it.
favorite thing. So every year it grows in the pathway between the trees. Every year it grows right here. And it's like the most intense part on the property. And we get like random plants other places, but this is it. This right here.
Mustard's corner.
So I kind of try and like leave it as much as possible until something comes along when like it will have to go. But how is it?
So delicious.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Not bad.
One seed. The seeds. It's delicious. The seed part. Sometimes we get a bunch of seeds. It's kind of hit or miss with these guys.
Yeah, I've heard
It's in between.
that typically citrus is wind pollinated, but bees love citrus flowers.
Oh,
And so
and our neighbors had a hive in their house up until about last week. It
Oh,
had
really?
built into their roof. They had to find a specialist to have it removed because it was starting to be,
problematic.
they could hear it in the kitchen.
Yeah.
It
Like
was starting
literally
to
they're in the
be
kitchen.
problematic.
I love the
Yeah,
puns. I love it.
Man, that tastes good.
So
Thank you.
these guys are probably 3 months after their like main season.
Yeah.
But when they're in season, they're sour still. They're like really sour and they don't have the best marketable value because of how we are as American people. We're taught that everything has to be sweet. And that's not true. It's not true. Things are great when they're sour. It's just about like training your palate. I personally, I've never really seen these in stores, and so I've just been selling to my friends. And then the tree broke, and I was like, okay, I need to ramp up a little bit because
Sell a lot.
that's like they were 300 pounds easily on that tree.
How
So-
old are the trees?
These trees were here when we moved in, so we don't really know how old they are.
Gotcha.
But we had one more Tangelo that was right here that in the past 13 years it just wasn't happy anymore, and so it let go. And otherwise they're all pumping pretty well. We have oranges almost year round. We have Valencias, Minneolas, and Navels, and the Navels are absolutely delicious, and of course out of season right now. But these guys are fun.
Yeah, no, we're excited. It was a great mead. People loved it. We're eager to make more.
And so we're gonna come through and we'll rototill it in, but first we have to cut it down and chop it into little pieces, which is really, really fun. So we end up weed whacking it in layers. My dad calls it the helicopter method. So you like come through and kind of just like weed whack it down and then let it do its thing, and then we'll till it in. And eventually we'll plant all these avocado trees that we have over here
Oh, okay.
in this block. And I think a couple of the avos will go here. I'm not quite sure on the plan because everything's always changing.
And
But
move. Yeah.
this is wheat.
Cool.
This is Sonora wheat that we're growing to see in hopes we can make maybe one loaf of bread. Who
Hey,
knows?
you might get
Maybe one.
Okay.
Yeah, we might. So we'll see how it ends up, but it's been really interesting. This has only been in since the beginning of April.
Cool.
And it was, I mean, we had that one little rain that came in April, and this was planted the day of the rain. I was like, okay, the rain's coming, we're going to plant it today. This is our moment. Because that's how we're going to get it established. And then I think we've just watered it a couple times. Otherwise, it's been almost dry farmed.
Wow. Very cool.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the cover crop next to it looks a little
Cover crop?
sad now, but it's doing its thing.
Yeah, yeah.